Hi, Jane here. Thanks for joining me. I'm a huge fan of empowering you, as are the speakers in our Go Big series. Have you stopped to think recently what you really want in your life? Do you feel like you were meant for more, as I had for so many years? What's the big goal that you want to achieve this coming year, or a fear that you finally want to get over? If you're ready to re-envision your future and launch your big idea, maybe spread your influence or get over a fear finally, then I invite you to join me and some of our speakers. We want to help you empower your mindset, build your vision, and own your dream. Stop needing to be right and let's do this now, together. Go to janeapplegath.com, click on Go Big Sign Up, and I will see you there. Sending you much love and success. Have an incredibly epic day. Hope to see you soon. Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Applegath. Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone, where some of the world's most successful women and men share their multi-million-dollar ideas, their high-performance habits, visionary mindsets, and resources so you can hit the go button on your epic life. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "The awakening of consciousness is the next evolutionary step for mankind." If you are seeking to upgrade your human operating system, as our guest puts it, and develop a better way of life in the chaos of our modern world, then you want to know today's guest, Adam C. Hall. Adam will show you where the next frontier in science, medicine, and spirituality meets your optimal state of health and wellness so that you can unlearn the beliefs, behaviors, and habits that shield you from discovering your divine genius. In his new book, Divine Genius, The Unlearning Curve, Adam shares the 13 universal wisdom teachings and the genius process that led to his transformation, a quest that began at the shores of Santa Barbara, California, and took him to the jungles of Brazil and Peru. Author, speaker, futurist, social architect, impact investor, and more, Adam began his professional career as a self-described EarthKeeper. He was founder of 3 successful real estate development companies before personal and professional devastation forced him to reevaluate his life. His transformation led him to a deeply spiritual approach to life beyond the success, money, and the prestige that his ego craved. He became a trained shaman, teacher of the Course of Miracles, and the CEO of Renaissance Capital, raising over $1.5 billion to secure and rescue and premier natural landscapes. He spent 2 decades as an impact investor dedicated to the quadruple bottom line, people, planet, profits with purpose, and founded the EarthKeeper Alliance. Over the past 2 decades, Adam has dedicated himself to fostering conscious evolution, business, and culture. Through his books, Divine Genius, The Unlearning Curve, and the first book in his autobiographical trilogy, The EarthKeeper, Under Developing the Future, plus numerous keynote speaking engagements and radio and television interviews, Adam continues to seek ways to elevate consciousness. Today, he is the founder, CEO of Genius Studio, creator of the Genius Process. Welcome, Adam. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, Jane, it's great to be here with you today. These are exciting and curious times, to say the least, and also very challenging. So I'm honored to be here with you and your audience, and look forward to exploring and doing some good things today, and sharing some good words and from our hearts and our minds.
Well, thank you. Likewise. Let's start at the beginning, your journey. In your first book, The EarthKeeper, Under Developing the Future, you share the life you were living as a millionaire jerk, as you put it. You went from Earth Conqueror to EarthKeeper. Tell us somewhat about that journey. It sounds fascinating.
Well, fascinating is one word, and the other one would be also be painful and difficult. And ultimately, I had been striving for, well, let's say well, it was the first 42 years of my life really to achieve the American dream. You know, the big house, the cars, the clubs, all of the things that really come with what we thought or think is the American dream, the successful life here in the United States. And ultimately, what I found is while I had much success and achieved that dream in many respects, there was something missing. And it left me in a place that felt a bit empty and unfulfilled. And I began to really not feel well. It was Tums in the morning and tequila at night. And
Mm.
ultimately, it led me to a place like, well, wait a second. This is not sustainable. And ultimately, it led me to another place of asking the question, where can I go and what can I do to find greater fulfillment and a sense of peace in my life? And that's when I begin to explore consciousness, mindfulness, spirituality, look at different traditions like Gnostic Christianity, Buddhism, Zen, Taoism, shamanism, A Course in Miracles. So I begin the journey that many of us are on and many of us are exploring to get on in our own way because these are powerful times. And I'm excited to be here and share more about that journey and ultimately to share a little bit about that undeveloping the future because what I found is I was living in the future's past. In other words, I was stuck in a mindset that kept me entrenched in ways that I felt stuck, that ways that I kept repeating the same kind of mistakes and really becoming very narcissistic and angry at times with my life. So anyway, it's nice to be here and share with you this and share with your audience and take the journey together today. And yes, thank you.
Well, that would resonate, I would think, Adam, with many individuals. I could say, even personally, I've been there, done that. And it is so interesting how we all find our way. Um, so, that being said, tell us the name of your book is Divine Genius. That's a very interesting title. And also, what is divine genius?
Well, thank you for that because oftentimes we think that a genius is someone like an Einstein or a Tesla or someone that has this seemingly high intellectual IQ. And that's just not the case. The genius that is existent within all of ourselves is the person that is can best be understood as the one that is deeply connected to the heart and connected to our soul. So, in turning into inward, when we begin to look at the journey, and as I begin to look at the journey, I should say, I begin to discover that within my heart, for example, I can see the world in a way of kindness and compassion, for example. In my soul, I can feel more joyful, not having fleeting moments of happiness, what comes and goes in my life. So the genius and the idea of the divine genius really is that Christ mind, that Buddha mind, that holistic mind that's living fully in our authenticity of our body, our mind, our spirit, and our soul. So that genius is very present for each of us. And what I found in the journey that I have been on is it wasn't a matter of acquiring anything or going to even to a teacher or a guru. It was more about empowering myself, which I share with everyone that answer is within you and that you are the answer to any problem that is being faced versus outside of ourselves. Now, of course, that speaks specifically to our own personal development. And that idea of undevelopment was I just needed to peel back and remove the obstacles that kept me from experiencing that divine genius within me. So hopefully that helps a little bit around genius. We all are genius. We all have enormous gifts, and these are extraordinary times that are asking each of us in our own way to step up for our own hearts and our own souls, and to really be radically honest about where we are and what we must do, because together we can do that. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting how society, or our cultures, whatever might be, have led us to believe the meaning of genius is associated with intelligence, and where spiritually, or when you come to the heart center, that's not it at all. It's really our wholeness, our joy, our who we are deep down inside. So that's really really interesting, and very it's eye opening. Let's put it that way. So in your subtitle, you have the Unlearning Curve, which is very interesting. So unlike any book title. What is the unlearning and why does it matter?
Well, that flowed on the heels of undeveloping the future. We have, 60, 70, 80,000 plus thoughts a day, Jane. And
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts are, the vast majority of them, I should say, are repetitious thoughts of our habitual minds, and that place where we function in the world from our past. So the idea is, when we undevelop that, when we unlearn those habitual habits and that way of thinking and functioning in the separate mind, that mind that is what is psychologists would best say is the ego mind, the mind that identifies, I'm a man, I'm in the world, I need to be somebody. These kind of, I play a role as a father. These are identities. And it's not to lose the important parts of our lives. I love being a father, and I love being a partner and showing up the world. It's really to transcend those, to recognize that we are far greater than our seemingly stories, our roles, and to incorporate the life we're living with our greater totality. So the idea of unlearning is a process that I developed that allows us to really to unlearn that thought system of the ego that keeps us locked in our past, that where we default into reactions and living a reactionary life versus living a life that's like the new mind or the beginner mind. Or how about the magic of the child? I'm loving playing with my 1 year old granddaughter, Jada, these days. And she's got so much great wisdom for me, and she's inspired me to remember, hey, I too have that magic alive in me. I too am curious about things. I don't need to be self conscious. I get to just be in my heart. And so the idea of unlearning is to take us back to those places that we cover up. And I know as a man, and my own wounding, little Adam, it was asked to be held and loved, to return to the magic of that. So it's just about unlearning the which keeps us from the joy and the magic. So hopefully that's helpful in terms of sharing kind of the human journey that I've been on, but also the invitation to all of us to unlearn, to go through that journey, because you don't need a guru or a teacher or a workshop or anything. Each of us has that power. And I put forth just a simple process that allows us to go straight to the bullseye and unlearn all that no longer serves us.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it when I see adults with their children or their grandchildren, because we become children. You're right. We forget to play. Actually, it's unfortunate because from day one in school, we're taught conformity, where in fact the human spirit and who we are curious beings. We're fearless, when we're children, but it's just a riot to watch adults play with children, because
Right?
that joy and that silliness, You don't even care what you look like. You're just making funny faces and walking like a nut. But it's fabulous, and that's the genius within us, right?
That's
I
it.
love it.
That's the magic. I love
That's the
it. I'm with
magic.
you.
Yeah, I love it. That was great telling us
Mm.
about your granddaughter. So the 13 universal wisdom teachings. What give us a little insight into the process and how they benefit us in our everyday life. Now I know that's a really big question because you have, 13 universal wisdom teachings, which is sounds like very much your signature uh, course or process. Tell us, give us some insight into that and how they can benefit us in our everyday life.
Absolutely. And I think what's important to know here is that we have it's it when we think about gaining knowledge and wisdom, we often think, well, that comes with age or comes through a time. And while that's true, the key things to know is that the taking a life experience, and I just want to share this in general, is one that offers us to step more fully into not only the knowledge in what we've learned, but to transform it into a direct experience. And every single one of us has this knowledge. Every single one of us has the ability to bring and share our wisdom in the world. So these 13 universal wisdom teachings, they're universal, they're applicable to all of us as human beings, offer us a way to gain insight into how we can live our life most fully, how we can really embrace a more of a greater experience. For example, I was just away taking a little bit of break with my beloved, and I wanted to show up in a place that was, well, I'm going to be fully present. And at times, I needed to be practicing wisdom teaching number one, which, by the way, is the most important of all of them, which is true forgiveness, which is about forgiving myself first and foremost, not for maybe what I did when I wasn't listening to or paying attention, but to embrace the place where I forgot that I was connected to her, that I forgot I was kind of off in my own separate self and I was in my own world and I wasn't present and I wasn't paying attention. So I needed to forgive myself. I didn't need to get on my case. I needed to just say, you know what, I made a mistake. I wasn't there where I wanted to be in my connection. So these 13 universal wisdom teaching, Jane, offer us powerful stepping stones into living a more experiential life that brings us more peace and equanimity and, well, unconditional love, and brings us into a place of feeling safe and trusted versus, oh my gosh, there's somebody that's going to be doing something, that old victim perpetrator mentality. Or, oh, that person's guilty and I'm going to judge them. Do we not live in a world that's just full of you're wrong and I'm right? I mean, my goodness. Do we not live in a world where everybody seemingly knows what's true and what's not true? Yes. And so this is about moving beyond that mindset. Um, and that wisdom of forgiveness allows us to move beyond the past and our stories of the past. And all these 13 teachings, we don't have time today to get into them, but you can certainly find out a lot more in the book, Divine Genius, The Unlearning Curve. You can learn insights into each of those teachings so that you can apply them in your own life to live more fully and to bring that to your relationships at home or in your work and really move into a life of more fulfillment. These are times of great change. We know that movement, that evolutionary movement, is moving at a very high rate of speed, and it's like essential that we take the wisdom that's out there and we apply it in our own life and we build our own wisdom and create our own experiences. So hopefully that's helpful and help in inviting people to explore this wisdom that each of us has and these universal teachings that invite us to step more fully, Jane, into the presence of who we are, the divine genius, and really build a better planet for our children and their children.
Absolutely, Adam. It's so interesting because one of the results from that practice or that process, those processes, is connection. And connection is what we're all about. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's on a personal level, if it's on a business level, if it's on a political level. Well, we don't even want to go there, but connection, when we are aware of each other, and, you know, awareness is just at the top of mind because most of us are walking around unaware. But yes, so powerful to be connected with one another. Once you have that connection, the world is in the palm of your hand. And I don't mean that in a power way. I mean that in, you draw people to you because you feel the connection. And it's because you've left all of those, you know, you forgive yourself, you have compassion, and yet you understand. So that I encourage everyone to pick up this book because it is so powerful. And thank you so much for sharing that, Adam. Now, applying quantum physics, this is really interesting in real life. You received praise from Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in new science who shares divine, this is his words, divine genius is a consciousness template to apply quantum physics in real life. He calls your book a guide to free ourselves by freeing our minds. Give us some insight into that amazing statement and how he is associating that with the quantum physics. I know you touched on it briefly with your last answer, but that is really quite the statement.
Well, I'm very grateful for Dr. Lipton's and Bruce's friendship and endorsement. Just did a nice, beautiful panel with him for an hour and a half to share more about how quantum physics is applicable to all of our lives. And without getting wonky here today, and the touchstone for that he shares here is that we are moving into a greater connectivity with the universe. You know, we have always been in the interconnectivity because you are so beautifully shared, Jane, how that connection is the point where we are creating magic, synergy, where we're creating in a field of manifestation so that we're creating abundance and removing the idea of scarcity and lack from us and really stepping into more of our leadership role and empowerment role of who we are authentically. And the journey into that interconnectivity with the quantum field is one that this book that I wrote is all about, the unlearning curve, because the idea of our oneness of body, mind, spirit, and soul within our own being, within our own connectivity of our own consciousness, our own awareness, so to speak, offers us a way to be more fully and entirely connected with this greater quantum field. And when we speak of the quantum field, we can most easily understand it, of course, as the universe. But the idea of quantumness, the inner, the entanglement with our feel, with ourselves, when we're aligned in our body, mind, spirit, and our soul vibrationally, which has a lot to do with our heart resonance of 5.28 megahertz. In that connecting, in that vibration, we're also connecting with this greater field, this greater quantum field. And if you think about it, in the quantum field, everything exists. There's nothing that's impossible in that field. Everything is possible. And what I found in my own journey of just getting out of my own way, removing those obstacles, loving those places within myself that felt so unloved and a whole lot more. But in that journey of the work that I'm doing, the practice that I do every day, what I found, Jane, is that has synchronized me into connection with other people. In other words, the
Yes.
ability to be in my own presence and my own vision, my own work of dreaming my world into being, as we say in the shamanic traditions, that presence becomes a synchronization. In other words, I'm actually in a vibrational communication with this quantum field, and it's inviting others that are receiving that connection. Think of a spider web, the brilliance of a spider web. Whereas, you touch that, any part of that spider web, that spider is in a connection with that entire field. Well, the same holds true for our connection and our ability as this magnificent operating, beautiful machine, so to speak. We call the human body and brain and all the things that this is, that it invites us to move into a greater connection. So, therefore, manifestation comes into play because when we're synchronized, we're in the right timing, divine timing, real time, not just 24/7 time. We're in real time, and that connection invites people to come into our lives. I'm finding that every day now that people are showing up that are inviting me into not only opportunity, but inviting me to a place where I can learn and where I can be a better human being. So that quantum template that Dr. Limpton speaks about is that the divine genius gets us into that place so we can manifest and dream our world into being. Yes.
Wow. I love that. Dream our world into being. That you hit the nail on the head, Adam. That is so true. It sounds so esoteric, but it really is when you understand how this works. And I call it a frequency. We all have a frequency. We tune into each other or not. But I love it. Reminds me of Rumi, who said, "Who you seek is seeking you."
Yes.
So that is
Yes.
that is really, really powerful. The genius equation for life. You have the 5 W's.
All right.
Let's explore that a little bit.
Yes, let's do that. And I think it's wonderful to explore these 5 W's on the heels of dreaming our world into being. And the question really is, are you dreaming your world into being, or is the world dreaming you into being? And when we really look at it, then we get to be real with ourselves to say, you know what? My life that I'm living is actually kind of dictating my life. It's that proverbial dog wagging, the tail wagging that dog. So I'd like to invite everybody to turn that around and to dream their world into being. And one of the things that I found, Jane, is that the 5 W's are essential, and they're just insights on how we can aspects of our life that we can engage. And one is, because we're in the world and we're functioning in a place of generating resources and taking care of our families, and we are upwardly mobile in one way or another. Otherwise we wouldn't be here, we'd be dead. So one of the things I like to talk about is wealth, and that's true wealth. And true wealth isn't the balance sheet. It's not the bank account. It's the balance sheet and the bank account plus the inner presence of your gifts, your joy, your kindness, your compassion. This is wealth of extraordinary proportion. It's more relevant today than ever. I work with people that are extraordinarily wealthy, but they're not wealthy in the way that I'm talking about. They'd give anything practically to embrace their true idea of true wealth, and that's why they come and work with me. The other piece is worth, and that's simply self worth. It's not just bottom line worth, self worth. Are you feeling worthy to show up to do the great work that you're here to do? Not just to show up at the office or to be a parent or to be a partner or work, but to really show up and to be of service. And that's worth, and knowing that truth within yourself, and nothing else can take that away. The other one was wisdom that we talked about. Everybody has wisdom. We all are here to impart the wisdom, share the wisdom. The other piece is wilding, wilding, which has a lot to do with we are looking at Mother Nature now to regenerate herself. We, as part of her, this planet, and no separate than Mother Nature, it offers us an opportunity to regenerate and rewild our life so that we can emerge beyond the current paradigm and the current chaos and challenges we face. So that regeneration, that wilding is key, is to know we have the power to do that. And lastly, I think is when I'll put an underscore on this, is the power of women and the power of the feminine wisdom and knowledge to guide us beyond the challenges we face. We're coming to an end of the patriarch. We're moving into a period of that we're going to embrace deeper feminine principles of discernment, of intuition, and that leadership and that power that's emerging from women is essential. And I fully support that. And I fully support other men supporting women, but also to come in touch with themselves, with the feminine in their life so that they can show up and they can embrace this power and these truths. So these are the 5 W's. This little equation is just really touch points, but I found them
Mhm.
to be very succinct. And in a nutshell, you kind of get the kind of the juiciness of what a few things that can really make a difference philosophically moving forward, but also applying these teachings and these things to your life. So hopefully that's going to help people to get some deeper insight into how we can all move forward together, how we can write a new story and bring forth an evolution of our business and bring forth an evolution of ourselves to live most fully.
Yes, absolutely. That's I read that in your book, and I thought it was I love that it's short and to the point, but it's so powerful, because the wealth, as you say it, that is something that we also as humans need to look at ourselves and celebrate that. You know, we always think of, oh, we've won the lottery or we've got a brand new client, and that's what we see as wealth or success. But you know, maybe you made a great meal today. That's wealth. Maybe you made someone smile. I mean, when you put it in that perspective, it's like, wow, you know, I had a really good day. I mean, that's the wealth,
Right?
because we
Yeah.
often look at it from the perspective of productivity or doing or whatever, but just the fact that you woke up and maybe you did a few stretches. But yes, absolutely. And the women, of course, that's I know we chatted briefly at the beginning, but I love that we are moving into different realms, and I love that you want to connect men with their feminine side, because that is really going to make a huge difference in the world today. Absolutely. Now, I am going to move on to, in your book, you ask the question, can you get out of this life alive? So you talk about the quest for the Holy Grail, and what does the Grail mean to you? And did you find the answer to getting out of this lifetime alive?
Yes, yes, I did. And let me just give a little context to what that question poses. And it's the key question that I ask because when we ask the questions and we're curious, we get to go find out for ourselves, don't we? And when I heard that question, when I was moving more fully into my own spiritual journey, so to speak, or what Adam 2.0, I should say, it offered me a question. Well, wow, what does that mean? Can you get out of this lifetime alive? I kind of contemplated this idea of immortality, and of course, because death is the number one fear for all of us humans. So I began to explore this and research this, but both through some of my Jungian psychology, both through my quantum physics work, as well as looking at our biologically and looking at ourselves from a neuroscientific standpoint. And that question is not about physically getting out of this lifetime alive, so to speak, because physically everything dies. Even the sun, of course, will die. So that's not what this question's about. This question's about how can I die consciously right now to free myself into all my other greater potentiality. In other words, into the divine genius and live fully and live abundantly and live unconditionally and peacefully. And that was about a psychological death. In other words, to stop living in the future's past, as I mentioned. So that journey took me to experimenting, I should say, consciously experimenting with medicinal medicines like ayahuasca or mushrooms with under the right circumstances, with the right professionals and the right rituals. And so that journey began to explore like, well, wait a second, there's something more than just my physical body. As a matter of fact, directly from A Course in Miracles, I'm not a physical body. I'm spirit that is riding along in this body, and this is magnificent machine, and it's a communication device that allows me to be here with you all today, and to share my heart and share my thoughts and share my genius in my own way, and it invites each of us to do that. So moving beyond the mindset of ego, that mindset of separation, is what it takes to move into this greater totality of who we are and to get out of this lifetime alive. And I'm here to say, without a doubt, unequivocally, each of you can get out of this lifetime alive. And in that journey, it's not about what's tomorrow. It's not about an immortality or a thought. It's about living most fully right now in our authentic self, to living most fully, not guided by my past or the traumas of my mother and father or my youth or all the things that have gone on. It's about living fully in the presence now of the totality of who I am as spirit in a body. And that answer came to me. And I share that in the book, and I share the journey and a process of and insights of how people can take that journey for themselves now, not tomorrow, not when you die, but today. And I invite everybody to explore that. Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's and therefore everyone must pick up this book to find out getting out of this lifetime alive, because that really is, now it makes sense. You know, when you read just that statement, it's like, okay, what does that mean? But the light bulb went on. So very, very interesting. And I love the fact that you have brought all of this back from your journey, because this is something that we all need today and now for sure. So I would love to know, what is the Genius Studio? I love that, by the way. I'm so interested in hearing what that is, and sounds like I'd love to take a trip there. So tell us a little bit about the Genius Studio.
Of course, I'm from a physical experience. It's right here in Santa Barbara, and my studio is composed of being on the land, being in the garden, interfacing directly with the plants and the grandmother oaks, and all the lushness that I'm so blessed to receive from this garden here in Santa Barbara. And I also have my home is here, and so this is the studio that I call the place that activates our interconnectivity with ourselves and our interconnection with nature. And because I subscribe to a worldview that says, as the earth goes, so do I, and as I go, so does the earth. And that place is what I would say to you is an activating space that we've created here. Some would say it's a sacred space. Some would say it's a place that is quantum. Some would say it's a place of quickening. Well, it's all of those things where we bring in our clients in group. We haven't been doing a lot of that based on the current conditions, but I bring them in and they become, they leap into what's their authenticity is and what their mission and purpose is in their life. And so that's the studio per se. So it's a space that's also an inner and outer space. It's a sacred
Okay.
space. And I want to
Mhm.
invite everybody to create their own genius studio, to do that wherever you may be. You don't necessarily need a garden. You can go to the garden outside. You can create a sacred space within your home, an altar. Pay, pay homage to that which you find and have reverence for in your life. And that's the way to create a genius studio, a studio that loves, supports, and nurtures you and your soul, and also that of your family, or also that of your friends that may come to that space, or go to a special space that you love. Think about and where you live there in Phoenix, there are places that you and your husband likely go to. So that's the Genius Studio. The Genius
Mhm.
Studio is mobile, it's within you, but it's also the environment that you create that reflects the beauty of yourself in the space that you
Mm.
live and share with others. Yes, that's what I'm up to.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Everyone should have a genius studio. Absolutely.
for sure.
It reminds me a little bit about the feng shui, that gets more complex because but having a place where flow happens or where you feel good, it could be indoors, outdoors. Absolutely. That brings us back to nature. That brings us back to our core, I believe. And certainly creativity too, because you make space. So, wealth, and thank you for that, Adam. Wealth and true spirit. Can you create a life of wealth and live authentically true to spirit?
Yes. And I think there's a great misnomer that the two are separate. And the integration of wealth as we traditionally know it and a practice and a lifestyle of spirit, of consciousness, of mindfulness, whatever you call it, are not mutually exclusive. I can say that because I've lived it and I'm living it right now. That has enabled me to fully integrate the traditional experiences of, well, what we would call the 3D world of work and business and politics and economics and all the kind of things that we are facing and what we experience in our everyday life. And then to also incorporate that with our idea of oneness, our idea of deep compassion and kindness. And ultimately, it's an inside out job. We begin in
Mhm.
that oneness and in that interconnectivity because then that will come to everything we do in our lives. And it's important to distinguish that because when we are focused, singularity almost singularly on the external events, then it's the rat race. We're chasing something.
Mhm.
There's fleeting moments of happiness. There's never enough. If I only had this. But the idea really is let that be for a moment. Come inward. Discover the divine genius within you. Discover the pieces of you that are whole, complete. There's nothing broken there. There's nothing that needs to even be fixed there. It just is your brilliance that's been given. And when I begin to love those places and allow myself to remove those obstacles, unlearn some of those things, then it became a lifestyle. Some call it a conscious
Mm.
lifestyle. And I just call it living fully, living in a presence of the divine genius that allows us to dream our world into being in real time, to allows us to let go and connect with all that's guiding us forward. So yes, you can bring those two together and live most fully.
Yes, absolutely. Living inside out. I love that. That is, I pick up phrases and pieces, and that really resonated. Living inside out. That's where the wealth happens. That's the secret sauce. Our greatest challenges. What do you see as our greatest challenges facing us today, and what can our listeners do about it? I mean, that's a huge question, quite frankly, because there are lots of challenges, I believe. But what would you say that our greatest challenges are, and what can our listeners do about it?
Our greatest challenge is ourselves. It's not the
Mm,
climate. It's not our politics. It's not our economics. The greatest challenge we face now as a humanity is the separation of our true nature from spirit, from Mother Nature, from ourselves, from each other, from our community, from our children. And that is the greatest challenge, but also that is the greatest opportunity. Because if you think about it, if you are the greatest challenge and you're willing to take that on, to let all that no longer serves you in your separation, then you realize something. You have the power to do that. Nobody gives that to you. And this is the brilliance. We, um, we are the co creators of our destiny. And
mhm,
you are the co creator of your destiny. It's not our government. It's not anything outside. It's not a pill. It's none of that. That's not to get rid of that and say that's meaningless, but it's what it's to say is you have the power. And that's the beauty of it. So the greatest challenge is ourselves. But the beauty of that is the greatest opportunity lies within ourselves, and that we can quantum leap into the answer and jump away from the problem that has got us all in this, well, mess in the first place. Yes,
yes, because we've created
yes,
it. Yeah,
we have. We've created
yeah,
that.
yeah. That profound, very profound, and right. I completely get it. Completely agree. Well, you may have answered this question, but why genius now?
Well, I feel and I am experiencing intuitively, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, as a student of humanity, as a student of our own biology, psychology, physiology, ecology, all of that, as a student of that, that we are facing a choice point. And it's not coming, it's here, it's in our living rooms. And that choice point is that we will either choose for our genius, our brilliance, our light, and all that we've been given, or we will continue with the same path, which is the path that's kept us separate and disconnected. And we have the ability in a technological age to utilize the technology and all that's available to us to leap into this greater place of genius. We also have the ability, do we want to offload ourselves to be more robotic, to become more AI driven? We
Mm,
have that as a choice point that's coming very, very quickly. And we're already being wired into our electronics and frequencies, and we're connection into DNA that's keeping us in a place of our own separation. Now, many won't say that, but that it's as straight up as that. We've come to that choice point. You get to choose. That's the power. You have the power to make that choice. Is it going to be straight ahead with the same old stuff and just moving into more of that AI disconnection? Or are you going to move this way that's going to move you beyond the conundrum and the chaos we face to embrace your genius, the totality of who you are as a divine being, as a powerful being, as an abundant, unconditionally loving being? And this is where we are. And I look forward to supporting others and helping them to make that choice for themselves and offering thoughts and ideas and a process that will allow people to move straight through that, not around it, straight through it with our head up and our hearts out. Yes, to that.
Head up and hearts out. I love that. See, I grabbed those. Absolutely. Adam, I believe it's going to be ourselves that will get us out of this predicament, because we are living in unpredictable times. And when we see the technology, it's based on predictability. At this point, I don't believe they can program it for unpredictable, but our world is never going to be this as it was in the industrial age. Everything is unpredictable, even the technology. But that is so profound, and great insight. Thank you for that. Because we are here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question for you. And it is this: if your life were an epic story, what
Yes.
would the title be?
Living fully, embracing the wild within.
Okay, I'm reading that one. I love it. Sounds like a
Yes.
great one. Sounds like a bestseller. So Adam has an exciting event coming up, and we'd love for you to share that with our audience.
Absolutely. Please join me and many others like Deepak and Dr. Joe Dispenza. We think Eckhart will be here with us, and Anita Murjani and Alberto Vialdo, and many others, and myself at the EarthKeeper Summit that kicks off on December 17th. You can sign up at, or go to check out, just Google EarthKeeper Summit. .com, I believe it is, or maybe it's .org. Forgive me, I don't know, but we'll make sure we have that correct information for all of you, because I'd love to have you there. There's going to be a lot of interesting speakers. There's going to be a lot of practice and things to experience, and most important, it's going to offer you an opportunity of all of us how to build a better world and how we can upgrade our own human operating system. In other words, how can you become the fullest potentiated human being that each of us are being invited to step up to? So join us at the EarthKeeper Summit on December 17th. I look forward to seeing you there.
That sounds amazing. And we will have that information in Adam's bio with a hyperlink, so that you will be able to access it here on the Epic Vision Zone. And do be sure to check out all of Adam's social media and links, and his new book, Divine Genius. It is wonderful. I have underlined many places on the book and earmarked so much. But that book is available on Amazon, and I believe in bookstores as well. And check out his Genius Studio and much more. And we will have, like I said, all that information on his bio page. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath, and check out how you can become an epic entrepreneur at janeapplegath.com. This is the Epic Vision Zone, transforming your dream into epic success.